Discover 6 incredible avocado mistakes seniors must avoid for life-changing health benefits. The title jumped out at Sarah like a lightning bolt in the dim light of her kitchen, sending a little wave of hope sparking through her heart. What did she know about avocados? Not much. They seemed exotic and trendy, far removed from the boiled carrots and meatloaf she had grown accustomed to over the years. But could they really change her life? At 72, Sarah had been thrust into a new reality, widowed, alone in Maplewood, grappling with rising medical bills, crushed by the heavy weight of everyday loneliness. The vibrant farmers' market once burst with joy when she strolled alongside her late husband, but now it felt more like a ghost town, filled with memories and shadows of lost laughter. Today, she shuffled through the bustling stalls, her cane tapping with each step, the smell of sun-kissed produce wafting through the air. It was harder every week to face the myriad of smiles that framed her grief like a heavy cloak. As she approached a booth draped with green avocados, she heard a voice bright and energetic. "Hey there, have you ever tried avocado toast? It's a game changer." Jamie, a nutritionist with a dazzling smile, burst onto the scene, her enthusiasm as infectious as laughter. Sarah blinked, taken aback by the vibrancy of this young woman. In Jamie's eyes, Sarah saw something she hadn't felt in a long while: curiosity and excitement. No, I have my ways," Sarah mumbled, though suddenly, her heart raced with intrigue. "Let me show you. Avocados are packed with nutrients. They can boost your health and even lift your spirits." Jamie's face lit up. Sarah felt a flicker of hope within her chest. Could this be the spark she needed? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With an eager heart, Sarah embraced this new journey. She bought avocados, Googled recipes late into the night, and in her attempts to whip up the perfect dish, she ended up with guacamole by the gallon, straight from the peel spilling everywhere. Each blunder chipped away at her pride but stirred a sense of determination, even amidst giggles over her mishaps. However, her children raised concerned eyebrows. "Mom, are you sure this is good for you? Maybe you should stick with what you know," they cautioned, skeptical of her newfound enthusiasm. Neighboring whispers reinforced doubts. Conversations draped in tradition painted her as reckless. It wasn't until a health scare rocked her world that Sarah faced her crossroads head-on. A small panic led to serious conversations about her health, nudging her interference with the status quo. She stood in her kitchen, heart pounding, unwilling to be judged as just another aging woman stuck in her ways. Then it clicked. A heartwarming idea sparked like a flame. Why not throw a community potluck? A celebration of avocado-filled dishes to unite Maplewood and prove that it's never too late for change. Just as Sarah began to rally her energy and the support of a few, challenges rose like tides. Fearful glances from friends, rolling eyes from family, it weighed her down. The potluck day loomed. Was she ready to challenge the naysayers? As the clock ticked down, she held on to the glimmer of hope for her health and happiness, barely feeling the weight of doubt. But just as she stood up to share her journey, a shocking revelation about her health echoed through the crowd, sinking her heart. Could Sarah truly inspire and break through the walls of cynicism, or would she sink back into doubt? The crowd buzzed with whispers as Sarah took a deep breath, her heart racing. The room felt as if it were closing in around her, each pair of eyes reflecting the surprise and concern that had echoed in her own mind. It was no longer just about the avocados. It was about redefining who she was in this small town. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I know you may be wondering why we're here today." She let the silence linger, feeling the weight of their gazes on her. "This is not just about avocados. It's about changing our story, about embracing something new, something healthy, a chance for all of us to connect again, to lift each other up." Around her, a few nods of encouragement emerged, though skepticism lingered. Just then, her son Daniel stepped forward, his brow knitted with worry. "Mom, I think this might be too much, don't you? You were just in the hospital last week." His voice was soft yet firm, filled with genuine concern. Sarah met his gaze, recognizing the love masked by worry. I know, but I've learned something important during this journey. Change is scary, yes, but it's also necessary. You can't stay trapped in a life of safe choices when there's so much more out there. With each word, the conviction built inside her. She was beginning to believe it herself. Jamie, standing in the crowd, beamed with pride. Sarah, you've got this. Just share your experience. Her encouraging smile was infectious, and for the first time that day, Sarah felt a spark of courage. The room shifted as she shared how avocados had become a symbol of her desire for better health and renewed friendships. Sure, there have been mistakes, like the time I made a guacamole that looked more like a science experiment. But that mess taught me to keep trying, to reach out and explore new flavors and friendships. Laughter erupted, breaking the tension. It was a welcoming burst, filling the air with warmth and understanding. The more she spoke, the more clarity emerged. Sarah noticed her neighbors leaning in, visibly interested. Remember the joy we used to find in the simple things like the meals we shared? Why can't we bring that back? Why can't we get together for something fun? As she painted pictures of game nights filled with laughter and potlucks overflowing with creativity, hope began to bloom in the shyer souls of the crowd. Her voice steadied, fueled by the sound of hope reverberating in their faces. This was not just a potluck. It was an invitation to reclaim joy. I want to see Maplewood thriving again, Sarah proclaimed, her heart swelling. Let these avocados remind us that each of us can nurture something beautiful, inside and out. I need you all to join me. Just then, as applause broke out, a faint commotion emerged in the back of the room. A younger woman rushed in, breathless and wide-eyed. I'm sorry I'm late. I just heard about health concerns, and I couldn't miss this. The air shifted again, excitement thrumming in Sarah's chest. What other stories could emerge from this community? Could this evening blossom into something truly transformative for all? As she watched the energy ripple through the crowd, she recognized that the seeds had been sown. But just as the crowd began to deluge her with ideas and recipes for their upcoming potluck, another unexpected revelation spread like wildfire. Someone at the back of the room called out, "Wait, did you hear about the new health initiative coming to Maplewood?" Racing thoughts filled Sarah's mind. Could this be the turning point she was waiting for? As unveiled possibilities lay before her, a mix of excitement and trepidation bubbled up. What would this new initiative mean for her vision and her community? The chatter in the room grew louder, and Sarah felt the pulse of curiosity and fear intertwine, creating a charged atmosphere. A new health initiative? She echoed, more to herself than anyone else. What could it possibly entail? A tall man stepped forward, gesturing for attention. Yes, I heard it's a community-wide effort to promote better health and nutrition. They're setting up workshops, activities, even free classes on cooking healthy meals. His voice carried a hint of excitement that lit a spark in Sarah's heart. Workshops? One of her neighbors chimed in, her eyes wide. You mean like teaching us how to use avocados in new ways? Exactly, the man replied, his tone infectious. They're looking for local volunteers too. Sarah, this could be your moment. You could lead a class on all those creative recipes you've been talking about. The room erupted with energy, the initial skepticism melting away in the heat of possibility. Sarah's heart raced. Was this really happening? Could she not only share her journey, but also become a key part of something bigger? I could. She stuttered out, barely able to contain her excitement. It felt like magic, the kind of rare moment when everything came together. I'd love to help. Jamie chimed in. I can do some marketing. We could create flyers and post them on the community board. Daniel watched with equal parts pride and concern. Mom, just remember to take care of yourself too, he urged gently. It was a reminder that echoed in Sarah's mind. She needed to keep herself balanced, but this moment surged with adrenaline. As the crowd buzzed with new ideas, someone else shouted, "Let us have a big kickoff event. We can turn this potluck into a health fair, like a festival of good choices." Images rushed to Sarah's mind, tables lined with bright fruits, cooking demonstrations, laughter, and friendships rekindled. Hope blossomed like the first flowers of spring. Yes, she exclaimed, her voice carrying forward the spirit of the crowd. Let us turn this into an event that brings everyone together. We're celebrating health, community, and of course, avocados. From the back, the young woman who had rushed in called out, "What about including information about general wellness too? Mental health is so important." Another wave of agreement washed over the crowd. Ideas flowed like the sweet syrup of familiarity, each person bringing something personal. They tossed in suggestions about yoga classes, nutrition talks, and wellness workshops. Together, they were building a roadmap to reclaim not just their health but their connections to one another. The energy was electric. It felt like a renaissance of the spirit, and in that moment, Sarah knew she could help lead this charge. But with every thrill of excitement came the knot of fear in her stomach. Could she truly handle such a responsibility? And was this health initiative truly as promising as it seemed? Suddenly, Daniel leaned in, his voice low but filled with concern. "Mom, what if it doesn't go as well as we hope? What if it becomes too much?" The question hung in the air like dense fog, a layer of doubt creeping in. Her heart began to race again, uncertainty nipping at her heels. She could feel the weight of leadership pressing down, the expectation climbing. What if this was more than she bargained for? Gathering her courage, she squared her shoulders. "We'll take it step by step. As long as we're doing this together, we can handle anything, right?" She glanced at her neighbors, each face shimmering with hope, anticipation, and maybe even a hint of fear. But as those faces shone brightly, another voice called out from the back of the room. "Wait. You all do know that the new health initiative is being backed by the company that's also been trying to buy our land, right?" A sudden hush swept through the crowd, the air thickening with concern. Had their newfound hope been overshadowed by a deep-seated fear? Sarah's heart sank, and dread wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. Would this be the challenge that could tear their fragile community apart? What would it mean for her dreams? The question clung in the air, echoing in the silence that followed, leaving every heart racing with anxious uncertainty. The tension in the room seemed to pulse with an almost tangible energy. Sarah felt every heartbeat reflected in the uncertain faces around her. The enthusiasm that had earlier lit their discussion flickered, now overshadowed by worries about the looming threat to their community. "Backed by that company?" Jamie echoed, his brow creased. "But why would they care about our health if they want to push us out? What's their angle?" Whispers erupted out of anxious lips, cascading fears melding into a muffled uproar. Sarah swallowed hard, her mouth dry. She could see it in the eyes of her neighbors. The excitement had turned to unease. The spark of possibility was now a flickering flame fighting against the wind. "Everyone," she said, trying to break through the noise, "maybe we should hear more. Let us not rush to judgment before knowing the full story." But was she convincing them, or simply herself? Her thoughts raced as doubt creeped in like shadows at dusk. But what if they're just using our enthusiasm? One elderly neighbor piped up, her voice trembling with concern. "They know we want change. What if it's all a trick?" That thought struck a chord deep inside Sarah. The idea that their passion could be twisted, their hopes used as pawns in a game of profit, felt gut-wrenching. She offered a shaky smile to reassure her neighbors, but inside, she wrestled with her own fears. Daniel squeezed her hand, grounding the whirlwind of thoughts. His trust in her felt like a lifeline. "Mom, what is our priority? The health fair or dealing with the company?" "Both," Sarah realized, the determination burning brighter within her. "We can't let anything stand in the way of our community's health." A wave of murmurs surged again, swirling uncertainty around her. "Maybe we should hold a town meeting," someone shouted from the back, their voice breaking the tension. "We need to hear from the company directly." "Yeah," another neighbor agreed. "Let us invite them and ask questions. If they're genuine, they won't mind." Excitement began to spark again, but it was layered with caution. Sarah nodded, hopeful. "That's a great idea. We need clarity to make informed choices." "Get back to the health fair," Jamie called out. "I want to see how we can promote that without losing our focus." The room was abuzz again, excitement seeping back in just a little, though the vulnerability still shimmered beneath it all. Each suggestion began to weave a tapestry of hope and resolve. Sarah felt her heart lift. Perhaps they could steer this ship through rough waters together. But as the crowd delved into logistics, she caught sight of the clock ticking ominously on the wall. Time felt like an enemy now. They had to act quickly, for each passing day brought the company closer to a decision that would affect them all. What if they weren't as benevolent as they seemed? Just then, the young woman who had raised the warning spoke again. And what if they try to spin our efforts against us? We need to be prepared. Sarah leaned forward, her brow furrowed. How can we guard against that? In that moment, a voice, small but firm, echoed from the back of the room. We form a committee, a group that speaks only for us, ensuring our voices are heard and honored. The statement settled over the crowd, a solution hovering in the air like a fragile bubble. A committee could unite their efforts, but it would require trust, cooperation, and determination, things that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Will you all help? Sarah asked, feeling the enormity of the decision pressing down. It should have felt heavy, but oddly, it felt illuminating. This was the moment to harness their fears into strength. Yes, came the resounding answer, hands raised with fervor. And yet, beneath the rising hopes, an unsettling question clung to Sarah's thoughts. Would they truly be able to hold the company accountable? As they made plans, voices climbing higher, she couldn't help but wonder. Was there unity enough to shield them from the storm brewing just beyond the horizon? The weight of that uncertainty settled in her chest. As the meeting came to a close, Sarah's heart raced with hope, yet doubt lingered like a shadow. What if their courage wasn't enough to protect the community they loved? The clock ticked on, and outside, the world continued, oblivious to the battles that loomed just over the hill. What would happen next? Would they uncover the truth before it was too late? The next morning broke gray and foggy, the weight of the unfinished business lingering over Sarah like a thick layer of clouds. As she sipped her coffee, the steam curling into the air, she couldn't shake the feeling that today was a pivotal one. The unease from last night's meeting had settled into her bones. Every tick of the clock in her kitchen a constant reminder of their looming deadline. "Mom, are we really going to have a meeting with those people?" Daniel asked, his voice sleepy but laced with curiosity. He was leaning against the kitchen counter, his hair a mess, eyes still half closed. "We have to," she replied, turning to face him, searching his expression for reassurance. "If they can help our health fair, maybe we can work something out. But we need to be strong. We can't let them push us around." Daniel nodded slowly, absorbing her words, but Sarah could see the uncertainty etched in his features. She thought about how many families were counting on them, trusting Sarah and the others to protect their home. Would she be able to rise to the occasion? The day slipped through her fingers, filled with frantic preparations. As the sun peeked through the clouds, illuminating the town square, Sarah could feel the mix of excitement and anxious energy buzzing in the air. People began to gather. She stood at the front, her heart racing with anticipation and dread. The crowd filled the seats, eager to find answers. "Thank you for coming," Sarah started, her voice steady, yet soft. "This is a crucial moment for us." Murmurs of agreement spread through the crowd. Before she could continue, a man in a sharp suit stepped from behind the curtains, flanked by two others. The company representatives were here, a crisp and clean contrast to the warm and worn faces of the community. They exuded confidence, but Sarah felt her pulse quicken. Were they genuinely here to help, or was it all a show? "Good afternoon," the man began, his voice smooth like silk. "We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today." As he talked, Sarah's mind swirled with questions. His polished words didn't feel sincere. How could they promise improvement while pushing for profit? Something in her gut twisted. "Can you guarantee that your plans won't harm our community?" A voice rang out, cutting through the veneer of professionalism. It was the same elderly neighbor from the previous night, her fierce gaze fixed on the representatives, demanding respect. "I assure you, we have every intention of improving the health and welfare of your community," the man replied, but his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "That's easy for you to say," another neighbor shouted from across the room. "You're making money off us." Sarah felt the tension escalate, the air thick with resentment. It surged through the room like an electric current, sending goosebumps down her arms. She glanced at her fellow committee members, who exchanged worried glances. As questions flowed, the representatives danced around the concerns, answering what they could but artfully dodging the heavy implications that loomed like thunderheads crashing on the horizon. The more they spoke, the more uneasy Sarah became. "Stop," she finally blurted out. The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to her, surprise and curiosity flickering like flames. "You need to answer us honestly. If you want our trust, we deserve transparency." The tension shifted in the room, the crowd leaning in, hope and fear eager for direction. Could she truly be the voice fighting for them when everything felt so uncertain? As the meeting dragged on, she caught glimpses of her neighbors' faces, etched with anxiety and determination. But just as questions began to emerge from the audience, the representatives made their exit, leaving behind a cloud of uncertainty. "I don't trust them," Daniel whispered beside her, his brow furrowed. "I know, but we have to keep pushing," she replied, with a spark of determination igniting within her. "This isn't over yet." As the meeting concluded and people filtered out, Sarah grabbed Daniel's arm. "We need to regroup. We need a plan." And in that moment, amidst wavering hope and looming doubt, she understood their journey had only just begun. When she looked up at the fading light, shadows shifted. In her heart, a new worry took root. Was the company really listening, or had they already set their path? The truth seemed more elusive than ever, slipping away like a whisper in the wind. Would they find solid ground before it was too late? Sarah paced the empty town hall, her heart pounding against her chest. The echoes of the meeting lingered in the air, thick with tension. She could still picture the smug smiles of the representatives, a parade of hollow promises that felt as empty as the seats that had just moments ago been filled with apprehensive faces. "Mom, what do we do now?" Daniel asked softly, breaking the heavy silence. He leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, his expression a mixture of concern and determination that matched her own. "We regroup, and we talk to the community again," Sarah said, her voice stronger than she felt. "We need a united front if we want to confront them." Daniel nodded but didn't appear convinced. He was still too young to fully grasp the stakes, yet his instincts were sound. She could sense his need for clarity. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to harness her chaotic thoughts. "Let us call a meeting for tomorrow evening. Give everyone a chance to share their ideas." The bustle of the town had vanished, leaving behind a ghostly quiet that felt strangely unsettling. They stepped outside, and the evening air wrapped around them like a cold blanket. Flickering streetlights created pools of warm light that flickered against the growing dusk, but uncertainty clouded their moods as they walked home. Sarah's thoughts swirled. What if they couldn't rally enough support? What if the company announced their plans and the town fell silent, too afraid to stand against them? The nagging doubt almost tightened her chest. She had to find a way to push past it, for Daniel and for everyone else who believed in her. Once home, she sank into her chair, wiping her hands across her face. "You know, Dan," she said, glancing at her son, who was busy scrolling through his phone, "this isn't just about the health fair anymore. It's about our entire community resisting outside forces that don't care about us." He looked up, genuine worry painting his features. "What if they really mean it, Mom? What if they want to help?" Sarah knew that glimmer of hope had its place, but it felt naive in this tangled web of corporate interests. "Sometimes, the promise of help comes with strings attached," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Their conversation was cut short by the sound of a knock at the door. It was the neighbor, Mrs. Carlyle, with her musty cardigan and kind eyes. "Sarah, Daniel, I heard the meeting didn't go well. Mind if I come in?" "Of course, Mrs. Carlyle." Sarah stepped aside, letting the woman in. Everyone's talking. There's a strong sense of concern in the air. She settled into a chair, her brow creased. "We need to keep talking. Keep urging people to act. If we don't stand together, we might just lose everything." "I was just saying we need to have another meeting," Sarah chimed in, grateful for Mrs. Carlyle's presence. "We could gather everyone, discuss a strategy." Mrs. Carlyle's eyes lit up with approval. "That's exactly what we need. But we should also find a way to communicate effectively. Maybe a flyer? Something people can take home." "Yes," Daniel exclaimed, suddenly enthusiastic. "We could put up notices around town, get the word out. Use social media too." "Good idea," Sarah said, the flicker of hope returning to her chest. "Let us create a team. We can get to work tonight." They spent the evening brainstorming, their resolve strengthening with each plan they crafted. Sarah felt a shift, a tide turning from fear to focus. Yet, even as they discussed their strategies, an undercurrent of dread still ebbed at her thoughts. Could they truly capture the town's heart and spirit? Or were they merely igniting a flame that would only burn out? As she looked at the glowing faces of her son and Mrs. Carlyle, warmth finally crept back in. but shadows flickered on its edges, and a question loomed large. What if the company came back more aggressive than before, armed with tactics she hadn't anticipated? The weight of the unknown pressed down on her. As their laughter faded into the night, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part was yet to come. The next day dawned with a thick haze hanging over the quiet town. Sarah pulled herself out of bed early, the weight of the previous night's discussions still heavy on her mind. She knew they had to make an impression at the meeting that evening. But doubts crept in, making her stomach churn. What if no one showed up? What if they didn't care? Daniel was already awake, his breakfast plate clumsily filled with toast and some leftover cold pizza. "You're up early, Mom," he called, his voice cutting through the fog of her thoughts. "Yeah, just getting some things ready," she replied, forcing a smile as she poured another cup of coffee. After breakfast, they headed out to deliver flyers around the neighborhood. The cool breeze helped clear her mind a bit. With each step, the tiny townsfolk homes looked less like cages of disappointment and more like fortresses of unyielding strength. "Where do we start?" Daniel asked, looking at the stack of papers in his hands. "Let's south head down Maple Street first," Sarah suggested. "Mrs. Parker always hosts book clubs, so she might help get the word out." As they walk, Sarah couldn't shake the mounting anticipation. Each house they visited invoked a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Would they find allies or closed doors? Mrs. Parker opened her door wide, her face brightening when she saw them. "Sarah, Daniel, it's good to see you both." "Hi, Mrs. Parker," Sarah returned warmly. "We're trying to rally support for the meeting tonight about the company. We wanted to see if you could spread the word." "Absolutely. I'll make sure everyone knows," she insisted, taking a flyer with eager hands. "You're doing such important work, dear." As they continued through the neighborhood, word spread quickly. Each interaction transformed her anxiety into resolve. They visited Mr. Williams, the retired fire chief, who immediately jumped on board. "I'll announce it at the diner this afternoon," he assured them, his voice strong and unwavering. By midday, Sarah was feeling buoyant. The lunch rush at the diner was roaring, and it seemed everyone was talking about the upcoming meeting. Daniel waved excitedly at a few of his friends, who quickly came over and grabbed flyers from his hand. "Can we come too?" one of them asked, bright-eyed and eager. "Of course, the more, the better," Sarah said, her heart racing with hope. That evening, the town hall filled with a palpable energy. Faces she recognized and those she didn't packed the room, filling the air with a buzz of anticipation. Sarah stood at the front, her palms sweaty but her spirit unyieldingly strong. She looked out at their faces, each representing a thread in the fabric of their community. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steadying as she spoke. "We didn't just gather here to talk about a health fair. We're here to stand up for our town." Applause broke out, filling her with a warmth that spread throughout her chest. Daniel grinned wide, and Mrs. Carlyle gave an enthusiastic nod. But just as the momentum began, the front door swung open, cutting through the applause. A group of well-dressed representatives from the company strode in, their presence instantly shifting the atmosphere. Murmurs swept through the crowd, fear crawling back into the hearts of the townsfolk. The representatives exchanged confident glances, their smiles sharp, but Sarah's breath hitched. "Let us see how this goes," she whispered to herself, steeling herself, as they approached the front. Sarah knew this was no ordinary meeting. It was a battle for their community's soul, and she could feel the simmering tension in the air. Would their united front be enough to combat the polished facade of the corporation? The answer loomed like a dark cloud overhead, and for Sarah, the fight was just beginning. The representatives waltzed in with an air of authority, their tailored suits shimmering under the harsh fluorescent lights of the town hall. The crowd's energy shifted from hopeful enthusiasm to palpable anxiety. Whispers amplified across the room like a discordant symphony. Sarah swallowed hard, gathering her thoughts as she watched the sleek men and women settle into the front row. Who were they to decide the fate of her community? She felt Daniel's small hand squeeze hers, his knuckles white. In that moment, she realized they weren't just fighting for their own future, they were fighting for every child's laughter that echoed through their town, every elderly neighbor who cherished the safety of their home, and every friend who shared a meal in the local diner. "Okay, focus," she told herself, inhaling deeply. She noticed Daniel's eyes darting nervously between the representatives and his mother. Don't look scared, she whispered to him, squeezing back. The mayor stepped forward, his demeanor unyielding. I hope our friends from the Eastman Corporation can bring some clarity to the meeting, he said, gesturing for the group to speak. A tall woman with icy blue eyes rose, her voice smooth yet commanding. Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate the chance to address your community. Her assurance was as polished as her appearance. We're here to inform you of the benefits our new facility will bring: jobs, revitalization, and most importantly, progress for your town. The words hung in the air, sweet yet deceptive. Sarah's stomach nodded. Progress was a thin veil for something that could destroy the very essence of what they cherished. An older gentleman from the back stood up, his hands shaking. And what of the toxic waste? What does that mean for our children and our health? You're hiding behind glamour. His voice trembled with passion. An understandable concern, the representative replied without missing a beat. We assure you, environmental regulations will be strictly followed. Your lives will not be compromised. But her calm tone only ignited the crowd further. Voices rose, anger spurred by the tone of dismissive reassurance. Sarah could feel need for her voice rising to the surface. But could she really muster the courage? She took a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through her veins. But those regulations don't bring back what is lost. What happens if there's an accident? We can't put our lives in the hands of a corporate promise. She felt Daniel's grip tighten. The crowd reacted, their energy shifting once more. But the representatives seemed unbothered by her challenge. The woman smirked slightly. We're offering prosperity. You need to see the bigger picture. The tension swelled, colliding with derisive murmurs from the crowd. As Sarah scanned the faces around her, she saw determination. She saw her neighbors stepping out, raising their voices against the sleek company facade. It struck her, then they were far more powerful together. Let us vote to take action. A voice shouted from the back, and the room erupted in agreement. Just then, the tall woman shot Sarah a piercing glance, her icy gaze laced with warning. Don't make a mistake you'll regret. Some battles are not worth fighting. That was the moment a chill ran down Sarah's spine. Was it a threat? She felt a rush of fear, tempered by the determination she had seen gather around her. With the looming threat hanging in the air, the night suddenly transformed from a town meeting into a high-stakes showdown. Sarah realized this was only the beginning of something much bigger than she had anticipated. Outside, the moon shone down like a watchful eye, illuminating a community on the brink of transformation. Every decision made that night would ripple through the quiet town, for better or worse. Would their voices rise loud enough to make a difference? The stakes were higher than she'd ever thought possible, and as she glanced at Daniel, who now wore a brave expression, she knew she had to find a way to rise alongside him. Because sometimes battles choose you, and you have to decide how to fight back. What would they risk to protect what was theirs? Would the true strength of their community shine through the glitz of corporate promises? The sound of the gavel echoed through the town hall, cutting through the air like a knife. The mayor called for order, but the murmurs persisted like a turbulent river refusing to be tamed. Sarah could feel the uncertainty pushing at the edges of her courage. As she looked at the faces surrounding her, she noticed the mix of defiance and fearsome clenched fists, others wide-eyed, mouths forming silent prayers. Let us not forget why we're here. A woman's voice rang out from the crowd. It was Ms. Reed, her neighbor from 2 houses down. We're not just numbers in their profit margins. We're real people. The crowd rallied behind her, pounding their hands on the tables, a rhythm of unity and urgency. Daniel squeezed her hand tighter, his little mouth firming into a frown as he caught on to the rising tide of emotion. Sarah knelt down, pulling him into a brief hug. No matter what happens, she whispered, we stand together, okay? He nodded, his determination burning brighter than she'd ever seen. The representatives exchanged glances, their polished exteriors cracking ever so slightly. The woman with icy eyes leaned forward, the smirk replaced by irritation. I assure you, the benefits far outweigh your concerns. Jobs will be plentiful. Infrastructure will improve. Look at the growth in neighboring towns. But at what cost? Another voice yelled from the back. It was Mr. Jenkins, a retired schoolteacher, his skin weathered, eyes fierce. What happens to our water? Our air? Our homes? The crowd roared in agreement, the sound rising like a wave crashing on the shore. Sarah felt an unexpected surge of strength. This wasn't just a meeting. This was a movement. People around her were awakening. She could sense them stepping into their power, claiming their space in the conversation, refusing to be brushed aside. Those of us who have lived here know what's at stake, Sarah shouted, her heart racing as she felt the weight of every neighbor's hope resting in her hands. This is our community. We've built this together, and we won't let you tear it apart for a corporate facade. The cheers that erupted in response felt like fire igniting in her chest. The icy representative's expression turned stony. You are endangering progress, she countered, her smooth voice beginning to fray at the edges. The future is not for the weak-hearted. Maybe the future is meant for the strong-hearted. Daniel piped up, surprising everyone. His small voice cut through the air, innocent yet powerful. Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she looked at him. Suppressing smiles danced across weary faces, lifting the weight in the room. The mayor intervened, desperately attempting to restore control over the meeting. Let us settle this calmly. We need facts and figures to make a sound decision. Sarah shook her head. It's not about numbers. It's about lives. Our lives. We won't trade our happiness and safety for profit. The crowd roared, a wave of sound that surged toward the representatives, crashing against their carefully crafted composure. As the clamor intensified, the tall woman slipped her phone from her pocket, typing furiously. Sarah caught a flash of her expression, fear mixed with fury, an energy she had never expected to see. Was this woman finally realizing that the facade was peeling away? Just then, the lights flickered, and the hum of tension shifted. A loud crash echoed from outside, drawing eyes toward the entrance. What had happened? Was it a sign? As the door swung open, a figure stepped into the hall, silhouetted against the night. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Who was this new player in their story? What impact would this unexpected arrival have on their fight? Sarah's heart raced. Her grip on Daniel's hand tightened. This was becoming far bigger than her, bigger than them all. What would it mean for their battle? Would they finally uncover the truth hidden beneath the shadows of corporate greed? The figure stepped into the dim light of the town hall, and gasps rippled through the crowd. It was Jamie, the vibrant nutritionist who had sparked Sarah's journey with avocados. Her hair was tousled, color streaked across her cheeks, and powerful determination radiated from her as she called out, "I'm here to help." The shock of her appearance fanned the flames of hope in the room. Sarah's heart soared at the sight of her friend, an unexpected ally in this fight. Jamie rushed to the front, energized by the crowd's response. I overheard the discussion outside. I thought I might share something that could shift this whole conversation. Eyes widened as she pulled out a folder stuffed with papers, each page filled with information about the health and environmental implications of the proposed facility. I've been researching this company. While they claim to bring jobs, they don't mention the drastic increase in respiratory issues and pollution in towns like ours where they've set up. It's not just about our health, this affects our whole way of life. Sarah's breath caught as Jamie spoke. The intensity in her voice reminded her why they were standing there. This wasn't simply about avocados or a potluck anymore. It was about the very essence of Maplewood. The representatives exchanged uneasy glances, and Sarah sensed their calculated confidence wavering. We want transparency, she echoed Jamie's determined stance. This isn't just a matter of profits. It's about people. If you care about our community as you claim, prove it. The icy woman attempted to regain control, raising an eyebrow. Good intentions don't replace the concrete benefits a project like this promises. But at what price? A neighbor challenged, rising to his feet. You don't get to decide what we need. We will decide what's best for ourselves. Another voice joined in, then another until it transformed into a symphony of agreements. The wave of unity surged throughout, stronger than any corporate narrative, filling the air with courage and conviction. Daniel looked up at Sarah, eyes bright with belief. We can do this, Mom. Yes, we can, she responded, her heart swelling with pride at her son's unwavering support. This was the moment she had fought for, not just for herself, but for everyone she loved, for every soul that seemed invisible in the face of big promises. Then, just as they rallied their momentum, the representatives stepped back, visibly unsettled. Perhaps a little dialogue can help, the tall woman ventured cautiously. We're willing to reconsider some aspects if it means addressing your community as concerns. So long as your fears are based in fact, we may be able to find common ground. Cries of disbelief and skepticism rippled through the crowd, the air crackling with the intensity of emotions. But Sarah felt something shift within her, a sense of empowerment igniting her spirit. Then let us open up communication, she said, but not at the cost of our spirit. We want to be a footnote in your plans. We demand representation. The room erupted, applause ringing as the crowd pondered the possible unity of dialogue instead of a monologue. Jamie leaned towards Sarah, eyes sparkling with excitement. Let us create a forum where every voice can be heard, and we can hold them accountable. A place where we share healthier ideas and actualize change together. As the crowd buzzed, Sarah felt determination swell inside her, a fire ignited in her heart. They could reclaim Maplewood, together. Here was the beginning of a lasting change, a network of community built on trust and transparency. Moments passed, the adrenaline pulsing through her veins as hopes rose alongside fears. Together, they could rally behind the ideals of wellness, connection, and do more than just revive past laughter. They could forge a new future. Finally, looking at the crowd, Sarah called on her neighbors once more. Are you ready to stand firm and protect our town's legacy? Are we ready to take this on together? A deafening roar of affirmation erupted, echoing off the walls of the town hall. And in that single heartbeat, everything shifted. This was far bigger than avocados or health fairs. It was about the very soul of their town. They were Maplewood, united and unyielding to as the meeting adjourned. Sarah glanced at Daniel, his face aglow with excitement. We did it. He beamed, and tears pooled in her eyes, a smile echoing back to him. Their journey wasn't over, but they had taken the first significant steps forward. They would face whatever came next, armed with the truth, a community of allies, and a passion that couldn't be extinguished. In the aftermath, as people filtered out, a renewed energy coursed through Maplewood. They had become warriors for their own future, game changers, together reshaping their narrative. This was just the beginning, and Sarah was ready to embrace the challenges ahead with an open heart and unwavering spirit. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this incredible journey with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the community. And comment below with your reactions and feelings about this empowering ending. It's your moment to show your support.